Alright, what's up guys? Welcome back to the New Strength Way podcast. I'm here with special guest Justin Smith, owner of Achieve Podiatry, New Strength Under 80 Strongman champion as of last year as well, I might add. And just, I don't think that we can just put you down as a podiatrist either. I think that you have like so many talents and like skills in so many different things that I'm really excited to see where this conversation takes us and to give a little bit more of your own background. So Justin, welcome to the show.
Thanks mate, thanks for having me. It's a long time coming.
Yes, it has been, man. As I said before, I've been waiting for the double cameras and like all my equipment to be set well enough to come into a place like what you've got here set up, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man.
Thanks for having me.
Cool, so we'll kick off first. If you want to just tell us a little bit more about yourself, what got you into training, exercise, and then like leading into the story of like getting started here now with what you're doing with Achieve.
Yeah, as you said in the intro, I've had a very varied background, probably because I'm a bit, I'm a bit all over the shop, and I love that. I get excited by different things, so I want to know lots of different various things. But yeah, so today I wear lots of different professional hats. So I lecture and teach at the University of Newcastle, where I study primarily in podiatry. I have this clinic, in an amazing sports clinic with some fantastic colleagues. But yeah, I'm a part of the Movement Collective, and I had Rod on recently as well. So he's my brother-in-law, and I'm coach and train there. CrossFit fanatic and love that. Also a part of Future Health Networks, which is more of an educational group with some other physiotherapists and things. So
yeah, we had Connor on a little while back too. So if you guys are interested in that, make sure you've checked out that episode with Connor.
Yeah, appreciate that. So yeah, lots of different various things. But like yourself, man, I'm just a bit of a health freak and like learning and connecting with like-minded people in those sorts of spaces.
Yeah, man, that's awesome, and I think that's a great way to kick us off. Where did exercise and training start for you?
So rugby league. Growing up on a farm out the back of Scone in the Upper Hunter.
Scone Thoroughbreds?
Yeah, originally under sevens, Scone Thoroughbreds, then made the move to the mighty Aberdeen Tigers.
Ooh.
Yeah. In the bush, it's a bit funny. It's more so wherever there's enough people for a team, that's sort of where you play to start with. And so yeah, playing rugby league on the farm, it was either coal mining or sports, pretty much horses or sports and coal mines and that sort of stuff. So wasn't a whole lot to choose from. So I chose sports, and it was rugby league initially. And that's got me into sprinting and a lot of that sort of fast twitch sort of sport stuff. But I found out pretty quickly that I was probably a little bit undersized for rugby league. So I always had to work really hard in the gym and athletically to combat for the fact that I probably wasn't as naturally gifted or as naturally athletic as some other people in my team. So I developed a keen interest in the gym and loved that. And that brought me to Newcastle, and where I was lucky to play a bit of footy for the Knights. Nothing too special. Didn't quite get to play in first grade, but played up until reserve grade and through the junior systems, and finished school here. Then had a year down at West Tigers. I loved that. Played my first bit of senior football with the mighty Balmain Bears and Balmain Tigers rather. Jeez, I'm a slave for calling them that. So that was it, and then played a bit of footy here for West as well. But background, and then got right into CrossFit for a good while. And so
let's hold on this footy for a second. I need to clear up this story. So I got told this by somebody else, and I assumed it was true. So pretty much anyone that knows rugby league knows James Tedesco, right? So the story that I got told is you were playing under 20s, I think, at the time. You were playing fullback, and James Tedesco stole your position.
Yeah, pretty much. And by that age, so he's 2 years younger than me. So the story I stick to is that I kept him out of the spot for about 2 weeks total.
Yeah.
But the other side of that is he was also a snotty-nosed 18-year-old, like he was much younger. So it was the right timing. I got moved up to Balmain and came out of 20s, and created a space for James Tedesco to start his career. But in reality, he was a freak, and even at that age, he was a freak.
And I think that gives credit to like the level of football you were. That like if there's going to be somebody that takes your spot or like makes you move on, you want it to be the person who's like arguably the best player in the world right now.
Yeah, that was a fun year. My year down in Sydney, we had Marika Korobiti, who now plays for the Wallabies. He was a fresh Fijian kid who could hardly speak English. She was about 20 kilos lighter He was in our team and he was a freak as well. So fast, like we were fast. And at the nights, I was the quickest in our team. I had the quickest 40 meter time. Came to the Tigers. And I was like, yes, this will be the thing. I'll win the 40. And there was another Tim Simona played a lot of first grade. He got outed with some bad stuff recently, but he was like, we did the 40 meter testing, and there was like me, James Tedesco, Tim Simona. We were all like neck and neck. I was like, what the hell is this? And then there was Mariko Korobigi over like 40 meters, like 3 meters ahead of us. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Since then, he's literally put on like 15 or to 20 kilos. And he's backed off the speed, but he's still just lightning fast. So yeah, that was a bit of a thing.
Out of curiosity, we have a few guys that are around the gym that are really, really interested in speed stuff. Do you remember what that number was over a 40, or like that you were pushing and some of those guys were pushing at that point?
Yeah, so as a 19-year-old at night, I did 469.
Wow.
469. I can't remember what we did at the Tigers. I don't think it was as quick that year. That's what I'll stick to again. Maybe so I would have been close to America maybe, but I doubt it. But yeah, 469 was my quickest 40. And
that is moving. Like if anyone doesn't get, like that is really, really moving. I think you see like 40-yard dash in the American NFL, like most of those guys, like if they run a 4.3, which is a little bit shorter only a 40 yard, like it's 36 meters, I think. But those guys are making millions of dollars for running a 4.3.
Mm-hmm.
So like a 4.6 is like probably on that range, like maybe 4.4 over that little bit shorter, maybe 4.3.
Mm.
Like in that setting, like you're a millionaire sports athlete.
Yeah.
That's fast.
Yeah, it was good. I got slower the further it went. So my best 100 times, just under 11. So as an 18-year-old, I ran 10:93. That was my best time. And then I just got slower the further it went.
If you motor in that fast, man, you can't keep that up for too long.
No.
So transition from that footy stage, you moved back up here after your time at the Tigers. When you came back up, I know you were playing at West Newcastle, and then was that when you were studying still, or finishing up studying around that time?
Yeah. So it was just finishing up and played 4 seasons with the Mighty Rosellas, and it was in that good era where we won 3 first grade premierships my first year back, and we, I was on the back end of some good gentlemen that had retired in the twilight of their careers, and we won 3 premierships and got to play Newcastle rep and play for the country and stuff in my early 20s. And that was really cool. So I had done all that, retired at 25. I was done with footy.
Yeah, me being a old Central Butcher boy, anyone that's involved with West, you just have to hate. Like you can't like them at all. Mainly just because of their success. I think it's when you're at a battling club, you hate the clubs that are just always successful.
Yeah, it was definitely like that. You definitely felt that, especially when we were winning so many premierships and games and stuff. But
yeah. So let's keep on to podiatry. Like, what moved you into that? Because that's kind of like, I guess podiatry is probably to me one of the unspoken about like allied health professions. Like everyone knows physios, everyone knows like most of your like EPs are still a little bit unknown, but podiatry's been around for a long time now, or relative to like something like EP's very, very new. But it also doesn't seem to be the one that's like getting thrown in people's faces all the time. So like, what was it that made you want to go down that avenue?
Absolutely. Well, it's you're right. It's so much smaller. There's only, I think in the last census, there's less than 5,000 podiatrists in Australia. Which is so much less than a lot of the other professions. But we do hyper focus on one part of the body. But my particular journey, I was studying sports science initially, which I know you studied as well. And then I had an early contact with an our mentor, and he'd just finished podiatry and was into the sports medicine side of things, and I saw the opportunity with that a little bit, and that intrigued me. It was just a flow on from that really, and I couldn't be happier with what I get to do now. It's a really good. I love being a specialist rather than a bit more of a generalist. I think my knowledge now is expanding more generally, but off the back of starting with a really hyper specialist in one part of the body, you get to go really deep and know a lot about something.
And I think that's like one of the reasons why I guess podiatry is like, it is something it's like your feet are obviously your only point of contact with the ground unless you're Rod Cooper and just on your hands all day long. But with that being said, it's like it's something that does play into everything else in your life because you are constantly on your feet. So it does deserve having that specialty where you do have people like yourself that are just dialed and saying, we understand this piece better than everyone else because it's needed.
Yeah.
What are some of the, like, I guess, like when I first heard of podiatry, some of the guys that I went to uni with that were studying in that or whatever that I went to school with and went into podiatry, they're like, oh, and you just like cut people's toenails and stuff like that. But I know that's not what you do. And I know that your understanding of it covers a lot more width within the profession or around like how that can apply to other regions. So what is it that I know you consider yourself more of a sports podiatrist? Like, what's the difference there, or what's the pieces that maybe some myths in that region that people don't really understand, or why they need to maybe consider like that's something that they need to look at?
Yeah, well, I think to your first point, primarily our profession, it certainly is. It's built off the foundation of the need for, particularly as we get older, the elder population, they can't tend to their feet being an extremity. We see that cascade a lot with vascular issues and any weight bearing structures. Like I know that you said that obviously our feet are very important. The first contact with the ground, they're under a lot of stress. But any weight bearing structure, we see the same with knees and hips. The prevalence of injuries and degenerative issues to those structures because they just get more use because we walk, we ambulate. So there's a higher need and a higher demand. But as a part of our training, we do a lot of dermatological training and vascular training, which is apart from physiotherapy, that's the big difference. We do so I'm primarily a musculoskeletal specialist. I've sort of evolved from calling it sports because I feel often when people hear sports, they feel like, oh, I'm not sporty, that's not me. But they've had this chronic Achilles tendinopathy for ages and it's just attributed to their ability and they're on their feet. But they hear the word sports and like, oh, that's not me, I wouldn't see that. So I think it's, the body doesn't care what arena we stressed in, whether it be our occupation, as I said, or our chosen activity or injuries. Like I see just as many incidental injuries, like unfortunate motor vehicle accidents, or even I had one the other week. My dog pulled her over. She twisted her foot really funny and caused this unique sort of injury in the foot, and she was just pulled over by a dog. So the body really doesn't care what arena we get injured in. It's the same underlying thing. But some of the main things I think we're coming from a point of I love thinking about Murphy's Law with foot injuries, and foot variances probably falls into that as well, where anything that can go wrong will. Often I think go wrong is probably the wrong term, but anything that can change will. So there's so many more structures. We've got 26 bones, 33 joints, and 100 different soft tissue structures, ligaments, tendons, muscles, nerves, everything, vascular structures. So there's more opportunity for variances and for things to go wrong. So that's certainly just the odds are much higher as opposed to my arm where I've got a limited amount of structures there, So yeah, it's probably answers one of your questions.
Yeah, and I guess taking off the back end of that there as well, like obviously there's so much going on down there in your feet. There's like how much attention do we give to that? Like I know like transparently, like coming from a strength conditioning background, there's very limited training in traditional strength conditioning that involves developing either awareness or strength or anything like that around the feet. Like there's some people that are kind of on the novel side of it and working on it, and some people like just do your squats with your shoes off and you'll be that'll do enough of a job. So there's kind of like, I guess, and then there's some people that are just like, you don't need them, like you're always wearing shoes, you'll be fine, like that just scratch it completely. What are some of the things that like get overlooked in terms of what do we need to be aware of from a training perspective for making sure that we give the attention that's needed for our feet, because they do play such an integral role both within themselves and then upstream from that? Yeah,
it's a good question. I think there's a lot to unpack with that. Like most things, it depends, and I think the truth somewhere in the middle. I think really thorough screening is important, but for some people it's like we screen your foot mechanics and your foot and ankle mechanics. You've got quality, mobility, stability, and adequate strength and coordination. Fine, move on. There's better, more important drivers that are important. So if I often think more so of, if we're ruling out red flags, like you've got obvious deformities or obvious previous injuries or real pain, and then you can clear, you've got an adequate knee to wall, you've got good mobility in important joint structures, cool, move on, you know, and your stability and your balance is good, great. You don't need to be doing all these foot exercises and blah, blah, blah. You know, it's not a really good predictor of performance. Like in the performance world, don't focus on the foot that much. But for injury rehab, it's a different rule, you know. If there's a localized pathology, cool, work on it. But you can't translate those same principles that you need in rehab to, you need to be focusing on that performance. I just think there's more important things to focus on. So I think top down, you know, core to sleeve is one of the principles, right? Like, so I think focus more core to sleeve, and it is still an extremity. So I don't take it as much as for the asymptomatic population with good mobility, stability, and strength at foot level. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, cool.
You know?
Like you don't want to spend 2 hours working on your foot drills and like not getting squats in.
Exactly. Like squat and hang, and you know, do some snatching.
Yeah.
So the same goes for shoes, right? Like that's a whole other topic in itself. I get constantly asked, hey, is this a good shoe or a bad shoe? It's like, well, cool, what are you using it for? What's your, you know, does it fit well? Have you had issues with it in the past? Is it suitable for the task at hand? You know, grip wise or thermo principles, is it, you know, is it the middle of winter and you're wearing thongs, like, but just basic things. And that's where the research and the evidence is with footwear and stuff, as opposed to this, New Balance is coming up with this funky new foam technology, and it's like, cool, show me the data that it actually outperforms the equivalents of the others, and you can't. You know, so shoe selection is another interesting thing.
I don't know if you've been watching it, but I've been watching The Last Dance with Michael Jordan in it.
Yes.
It's so good, but there's that ad of Mike's Air Jordans, and it's like, is it this? And he's like, no, it's not. Is it this? It's got to be the shoes, right? It's just shoes, and he's like, no, like that's not what made me. It's the work and that sort of thing that comes to do with it as well. And it's like you can't just put on. Obviously, there's optimal scenarios there. Like there's a best shoe to squatting for you. It might not be the same as what's the right one for me, but there's also like the shoe isn't going to make you squat like 20, 30, 50 kilos more. You still have to get in and do the squatting anyway. So that's quite funny because I do get questions like that. It's like, oh, what shoes should I wear to training? And I'm like, wear most of our lifting shoes, like something like a Reebok Nano or a Nike Metcon is probably a good start. If you're really into weightlifting, you can buy weightlifting shoes, but you don't need to buy them. And then like if you're running all the time, those shoes probably aren't good for you. Or like as I've learned recently, is like Vans aren't a good option for like walking days on end with.
Yeah, exactly. So I think more so like the real question is what influences the ground force reactions, and what plug in some of the variables. How long are you going to be on your feet for? What surfaces are you going to be on? You know, because the barefoot community say the same thing. They're like, oh, barefoot's super natural. I'm like, cool. Is standing on concrete, like, is concrete natural for us? So, or hard tiles, timber, like being in a workshop floor all day. Often a shoe is just a counterbalance for that, to create a more natural environment. But then you add BMI and tissue tolerance, like how used to that are you? Like we spoke about squatting shoes. I personally love like doing deep, like quality, high volume or high rep squats. High effort squats in a lifting shoe. But I know I've got pretty natural, crappy ankle range. So for me, having a lifting shoe as opposed to something flat, but I can't translate that to someone who has really great ankle mobility. They'd be fine in something flat, you know.
Yeah, and I'm the same actually. I use lifting shoes primarily for like that, for anything overhead. As well, because it gives a little bit more of a comfortable position. I can sit back into my hips and for that dip and drive there. But I also try to spend some time out of it so it doesn't become a crutch too, which sometimes sucks because it feels like if you've been lifting in lifting shoes for like 2-3 years and then you take them off and go barefoot for one session, you're like all of a sudden you don't know how to squat anymore. Let's shift gears a little bit, man. I want to talk about like this collaborative stuff that you do with the Future Health Network, we were talking before, and you go around and run some in-services with some other physiotherapy groups, and really just expanding the knowledge base of the overall industry. And this is something that we spoke about last week on the podcast with Nick, is like Newcastle is this amazing hub of like all these great people in each of their own specialties, and it's such a collaborative region that everyone's willing to help each other. And I think like I've been here, this is my second time here before, but the first time you just took me through and showed me around and what sort of stuff that you work with, and always adding value to other people without expecting anything in return from there. And I think that's one of the great things about the region in Newcastle with this here, is that everyone's value first to each other, and how can we help everyone get better. But talk to me a little bit about what you do when you are going around with it, with both in the formal setting with the Future Health Network, or when you're doing these other things around. What are some of the things that you help some of the other professionals understand about what you do and how that can help?
Yeah, well, thanks for letting us talk about that. It's a real passion, but I think it's firstly starting with a curious nature. I'm just genuinely really curious about wanting to be better myself and connecting with other on a values base. Although we have completely different professions, we've got very much shared values, and there's so many different people in this region, which is a big region. It's really a great spot for health and fitness. There's lots of like-minded people around in different professions. That's my role at the university and educating and a part of the faculty there. And I love getting out and connecting with lots of other health professionals. And most of the time, it's always just let's break down the barriers. I love this topic. It's always what challenges does my profession give your profession? What issues do clients that classically leave, say, my profession and see you, are they constantly saying? Those sorts of conversations, because every profession has that, particularly in health space. Like someone will leave their podiatry care, say a failed experience for whatever reason, and they'll go see a physio or they'll see an EP or they'll see someone like yourself, and then they discharge from care and they're like, whatever, they'll see a physio or whatever. I love talking about those topics and what is that? Because it's very easy and then just figure solutions for it, and what's the truth, and what are the common patterns that come up, and being detached from what the answer is from their perspective, because then we can find a solution. So the common one from our profession, I love talking about with other health professionals, when are orthotics indicated, when should they have orthotics, or what about custom versus non-custom, and all these different things. I love talking about that and blending the research and the science with it. So firstly, it's just talking about that, and then educating. I'm lucky because I specialize in the foot and ankle, and yet that prevents. There's lots of foot fixes. You can see me, you can see the guys downstairs, there are some physios down there. When you roll your ankle, it doesn't really matter. The truth is the truth as to what's gold standard for that tissue. And when you look at it more objectively, it's like, cool. Well, do you know what gold standard is? Do you know how to construct a dialogue with a patient and help them move towards their meaningful goals, and then create a pathway with them and empower them along the way. So if I can help design their protocols a little bit better for anything lower limb that I just tend to see a lot, and get some ideas from their perspective as well, and what I can be screening to help share with them, and everyone wins. So, and that's what we're passionate about with Future Health Network. So alluded with that. So a couple of my good friends, so Connor Gled, who I know is a friend of the podcast, Associate Professor Chris Williams, who's also a physio and a mad Ollie lifting guru, and Dave Renfrew, the mad physio. I call him Dashing Dave, or Dirty Dave. He doesn't like to call him Dirty Dave as much.
When Dave gets on the podcast, it's going to be labeled Dirty Dave from right there now.
I love that. Good, you heard it first. Just super passionate people that, and they're all kind of the same age as me, but Dave and Chris were partly our mentors, become really good friends. They're a little bit older than us, but a couple more years in the game, and we're really passionate about creating the opportunity to bridge the gap between health and fitness professionals and have some of these conversations. Like, we know that they should probably see us patients and clients for an episode of care. Come in, you got some heel pain, let's talk about some of these specific injury things, get back in the community and stay engaged. That's the best thing for you long term. And we know that you guys as coaches have that consistent rhythm of answering questions. And you said before, you get asked all the time about shit. Like, cool, if I can help give you good quality answers, give you quality screening questions and things like that as well to help trigger if there is an issue. A couple of these self-directed questions or things that might trigger further care, and then get you back and just get your patient back to you. And that's the sustainable model which helps improve our healthcare system as a whole.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I think that a couple of key things there is like, as the way that you guys are approaching it is how can we empower the coaches to be able to make better decisions? Because I think there's definitely, I've spoken to other coaches and they're concerned about if they send somebody to a podiatrist or a physio and they come back with the answer like, oh, you just need to not train for like 6 weeks and just do nothing. And they're like, well, a lot of personal trainers are in the thing with like, they don't have like a like full-time job where it's like a stable income. So it's like, well, if this, like, I know I can come up with an alternative to this person, but if they're being told to not train at all, I don't have an income for that slot for the next the next 6 weeks. So I think there's been some concerns for that there, but then I think what you guys are doing is really empowering the coaches of how to like then be able to bridge that gap with, okay, where can I help get started so I can actually identify where this person needs to go, and then also like how can I be able to talk on that same level with somebody like you and be on mutual communication where we can both have discussion and go, cool, like we don't want the person to not train at all, but we also need to come up with a solution to fix this problem that's here. So if you can guide me a little bit through that, and then maybe I can give you some feedback on like what I'm seeing in the gym and help guide through that, and then come up with a solution that's really the best fit for the client, because ultimately that's what everyone's in it for, is the best solution for the client. And I think what you guys, what Connor, what Dave, when I've spoken to both of them and yourself, is all about like, okay, how can we help that client first? It's not about how can we fuel our businesses. And I think that's an amazing thing. We only got a couple more minutes here, man, and I want to be respectful of your time. I want to quickly touch on, you recently tore your Achilles, you're in rehab now. What's been some key lessons that you've learned from kind of being on the client side of what your industry is?
I almost forgot about that. We better talk about that. So firstly, just what you mentioned before around, well, modify, don't stop. And we're constantly preaching that, like, how can you just modify activity instead of just stopping? Thankfully, I've adopted the mindset of, I've adopted the mindset of being more of a generalist with my training. Since footy, my identity wasn't really anchored. I was a footy player. Same as runners. Like I'm a runner. If you take that away from me, I can't train. So, training more varied. I've nailed my free handstand push-up now. While I was still in a boot, I was working on that. So really sinking my teeth into training, like looking at the opportunities best I could with anyone who deals with a chronic injury. So that was the early stage, and then really trying to be consistent and disciplined with the monotonous progressions has been just the main thing. Preaching doing what I'm always trying to preach. But it's hard, man. Fear is a real thing where you have an acute, like it's a big traumatizing sort of injury. And people can relate when they do an ACL or something, a big acute injury, particularly a non-contact injury. Like even now, like trying to retrain, like skipping and returning to running and like jumping down steps and stuff like that. Like I'm 6 months and 3 weeks now, and it's still nowhere near where it will be eventually. It's come a long way, but still having that fear is hard to overcome, and I can empathise with that a lot more with the return to play type scenarios, which I couldn't before.
Yeah, 100%, man. That's great. And we were speaking before about how Jess, my fiance, had also gone through that same injury. And one of the big key things that I thought that was important with her when she went through was kind of this stage where, like, for so long she was considered like she was an athlete. Like she was a girl who played high level netball growing up, jumped into weightlifting and was crushing it in weightlifting in very little time. And then to basically like have that like snap, like quick injury, and then it's taken away from you almost instantly. Was that something that you had like trouble dealing with yourself, like that change of identity, or like trying to battle through, I can still do all these things and find the opportunity, rather than just going, oh, I can't walk now?
Yeah. Well, thankfully I had it was funny. It was only probably 2 weeks, and we were joking about this before. It was probably 2 weeks after I was at your awesome strongman competition, taking out the mighty midgets under 80 kilos category. Then 2 weeks later, I'm laid up in hospital. So I learned a couple of lessons there. One was the importance of training specificity. So although I was strong as hell, I was doing lots of endurance running, which is another passion. I hadn't done any fast twitch fiber touch. Previously in my brain, I played Australian level touch. But I hadn't played footy or touch, cutting-based, turf-based sports for 3 or 4 years, and then, second game back, bang. So training specificity was the main thing, which I always preach all the time. Rehab specificity, training specificity, so I was a victim of that. But yeah, like having that taken away, I was also very grateful that probably happened to me like almost 30 as opposed to when I was 20, because now having that, as David got that brain callous a little bit more of, being a little more learned. on the journey, there's always more learning to go, but probably learning a lot more about resilience and stuff like that, and trying to anchor your identity and being adaptive. I've been mindful of that over the last few years. And I think business and different things probably make you a little bit more resilient and tougher as you get older. So I've got a lot more empathy for, and probably more coping strategies with dealing with that now, as opposed to if I was younger. So some of those younger athletes, like now I know there's one of the Knights boys, Tao Moga's done his knee 4 times. He's still only in his mid-20s, and I think, holy crap, like him having to do that, and he's a footballer, and he's done it 4 times from like 17 to now. That shows a lot of character for him to still get back to first grade level,
Yeah, man. Like you see some guys don't get back from 1. Like they come back, but they're just really not there, like mentally with that same level of ticker. So it definitely shows resiliency, and I think that's an awesome thing that you touched on, man. I think that's the best spot to leave it there for this episode, is like how important being able to forge that, being on the journey, and the adaptability and resiliency there is to being able to handle those setbacks on your journey, and then finding those opportunities as well was really, really great thing that I think I've taken from this conversation so far. So Justin, thank you so much for your time, man. I've really, really enjoyed this. I think there's going to be a lot of people who are going to get a lot from this. If somebody's listening and they want to reach out to you, they either want to learn how they can be involved with the Future Health Network, or see what you do here, or maybe they're in need of a little bit of podiatry clinic work, what's the best way to reach out?
Yeah, thanks, mate. Usually, like most on the socials these days, so Future Health Networks and Achieve Podiatry. I'm not as active on the socials, to be honest, as a lot of my colleagues, but yeah, on the socials. But I want to honour you, man. Like, thanks so much for having us on me. I know you were just saying you're almost up to your 100th episode now, so that's a big credit. So, and thanks for coming in. I appreciate it.
Thank you, man. It's been awesome.